So hey guys, how y'all doing? It's been a while since I've done the vlog, and Jeff is out hanging tarps for a lady today and helping his mother with the battery in the van. So I thought I would get on and do the vlog so I could have it done and uploaded by the time he got back here. The first thing that I want to talk about is, of course, it's Thanksgiving this week. So I hope whatever you guys are doing, that you're safe and that you have an enjoyable Thanksgiving for those of you that celebrate. And the other thing that I want to talk about is a whole bunch of new blog posts that I've put up over on experimentalhomesteader.com. I have been working really hard on the site and trying to optimize what is there and get new posts up. And so I'm just going to kind of run down the list, and then when I get to the end, there's a couple that we're going to actually talk a little bit about. I have a handmade gift ideas for year-round gift giving, because I got to thinking, the holiday gift guide is really nice, but let's face it, people give gifts all year long. And a lot of times people want to give handmade gifts. So, I have some ideas up for those, and of course that idea list will be growing as I add more blog posts, because these are all DIY types of things. I also have a creative handmade greeting cards for all occasions. Now again, this is like the handmade gifts. It's sort of a roundup of the different blog posts that I have that tell you how to make different greeting cards, and while the selection right now is kind of thin, I will be adding more tutorials that tell you how to do this. And I know a lot of people feel like, well, I don't have a Cricut, I can't afford a Cricut, and you always use a Cricut. I do. But there is no reason why you can't buy the shapes of the cards that I make and do it completely by hand, or use scissors and just draw the shapes and cut them out. They don't have to be perfect. I use a Cricut because it's easier for me with the arthritis in my hands, because otherwise my hands cramp up really, really bad when I try to cut things, and my writing is for the birds. It is really bad. So using the Cricut lets me make things prettier than what I would if I was trying to do it by hand, but you can do it however you want. I have a sous vide carrots in a honey butter sauce recipe, and these were really, really good. The only advice that I would give is to make sure you get baby carrots, because the bottoms of my carrots were really small. I think they were baby carrots, but some of the tops were larger, and while they were still really good, they weren't quite as tender as those smaller pieces. So if I make this recipe again and my carrots end up the same size, those top pieces I think I'm going to cut in half or maybe even fourths to make them smaller, because I just thought the smaller pieces were more tender and more flavorful and really tasted better. I also did that homemade chicken pot pie with crescent rolls. If you have a cast iron skillet and you want to do a one dish chicken pot pie and you don't want to make the crust, this is the recipe to go get, because it was really easy to just unroll those crescent rolls and lay it right on top of that filling that I made. And I took some shortcuts this time, because I made the chicken broth, I made bone broth, and I deboned a chicken that was left over from a roasted chicken that we had that turned into chicken noodles and then into the chicken pot pie. So I did everything by scratch, but I cheated on the vegetables, and I used a bag of organic frozen peas and matchstick carrots. So that was a nice little shortcut, because I didn't have to take the time to prepare the fresh vegetables. And it was something that I had on hand. And like I said, the crescent rolls were really nice. I loved how fluffy the crust was and that crisp. It just had that little crispy taste, that little bit of crunch that really makes things so much better. I also put up a post, and this is a step-by-step with photos of each step on how to build an efficient portable stove for grid down survival. It's winter here in Indiana, which means we could lose electricity due to power outages. But other parts of the country, they have hurricanes and floods and wildfires and all kinds of things going on. And you never know when you might have no electricity but still need to cook. Or if you have evacuated from your home, maybe you need to cook. This portable stove literally uses 2 soda pop cans to make a stove that you can cook on. So definitely get over to Experimental Homesteader and check it out. It is a really cool little project. And I really love that the 2 soda cans are the main thing. Yes, you do have to have some fuel. But if you have no stove to use the fuel in, that's not going to do you much good. And the fuel could be bought and kept on hand, stored in your bug out bag if you need it, whatever. And soda cans, you can pretty well find any place. I mean, people just throw them in the trash. They throw them down on the ground. So it's a great way to be able to cook if you're out someplace or you're out of power and you don't have any other way. I also did a post on the importance of taking survival preparedness seriously, because I think that a lot of people see those of us that prep as extreme. Why do you want all this stuff saved up? And, do you think the zombies are coming or what? And I think people need to realize that it's about a lot more than that. Natural disasters are something that just happens. And more and more these days, we're having man-made catastrophes. Mass shootings. We're having all kinds of things going on, riots, and just all kinds of things that can disrupt life as we know it. And it is so much better to have some food stocked up, at least 3 days worth. More if you can get it. But some food stocked up so that if you have a power outage and all the grocery stores in your area are closed, you have food that you can live on. What if you have a flood and you're okay in your house, but no one can get to you? You still have to eat. If a mass shooting has just happened in your area, you're not really going to want to leave your house and go out. So having some food where you don't have to go to the store every day or every week, having that stockpiled is a really good idea. And not only that, but those times when your check is a little bit short and, you're trying to figure out, can I pay a bill or go to the grocery store? If you've got a stockpile of food, you don't have to worry about that. And here's the thing. A lot of people think that you just stockpile the food forever and that's it. That's the end of it. It just sits there. This is not the proper way to do it. You want to rotate that food so you don't have outdated cans or boxes of food sitting around. So you need to come up with some kind of rotational system where the older food is in the front of your cabinet where you can get to it, or on the front of your shelf, and the older food is the newer food is towards the back. And as you get new food, you want to keep rotating things forward and putting the newest stuff clear to the back. And this way you've always got a stockpile of food, and you're always using up that food before it actually goes bad. I also put up a homemade stuffing recipe using Roman meal bread. And this was a sponsored post. Roman Meal actually sent me some loaves of bread to make this recipe with. And I did this a few years ago. I have republished it because, as some of you know, I tore everything down and I'm basically redoing everything. Here's the thing I want to say. I used Roman meal bread. I like Roman meal bread. But if it's not available in your area or you just don't like it, you can adapt the recipe to whatever kind of bread you want. And making stuffing, or dressing as some of you call it, out of bread that you have on hand is a really great way to keep that bread from going bad. Because if you're like us, we get a loaf of bread, and there is no way that we're going to be able to eat it up before it starts to mold. And without having the chickens and stuff anymore to feed that excess to, a good way for me to get my money's worth out of it and really stretch it is to cut it up and turn it into stuffing, which can also be used as croutons or many different uses for it after you do this. And you can just, after you make it and you bake it, you can just put it in bags, vacuum seal it if you want, and put it in your freezer. And it will stay good for a really, really long time. Another post that I did republish is artificial Christmas tree health concerns. Now, I know there's concerns about real trees, and there's health concerns about artificial trees, and we personally use artificial trees here, but I wanted to put the information out there because if some of you notice that you're starting to have some health issues around the time you put your Christmas tree up, you might want to look into this. Or if you have someone in your home that has a lot of health concerns, you might want to go read this article just to kind of get an idea on some of the situations that they could be facing. I also republished the cast iron Dutch oven garlicky chicken noodle soup recipe. This is really, really good. If you've never made chicken noodle soup in a Dutch oven, you've got to try this recipe. And it is completely from scratch. I made the broth myself. I used, my brain just went completely blank. I did not use garlic. I used the garlic spikes, which is not the word for them. I'm going to click over here. Garlic scapes. That's what they are. I used the scapes to actually make the broth with. Well, that was not the only thing I used, but the scapes were in the broth, and it made it really garlicky and really good. And then I also republished a post on the benefits of using cast iron for cooking. Now, I know that a lot of you are going to say, well, cast iron is really heavy. And it is. But, it is the original nonstick cookware. And it is really nice to use, and it is so, so versatile because you can use it on your stovetop, you can use it in your oven. Doesn't matter what kind of oven or stovetop you have, what kind of fuel you use, you can use it. You can use it on your barbecue grill, whether it's charcoal or gas. You can use it over an open fire. You can use it on top of your wood stove. If you heat your house with wood and you have a flat top on your wood stove. So very, very versatile. And as long as you've taken the time to properly season it, then you're going to have a non-stick cookware. And it's not going to chip up like some of that stuff that you can buy at the store. I'm sure some of you know what I mean. It's supposed to be non-stick, and it works great at first, and then it begins to kind of chip off, and then things start sticking. Cast iron doesn't do that. So my advice for you is, if you're going to invest in cast iron, get a really good cast iron. Get it from a good company. I like Lodge. Make sure that you do the seasoning and get it well seasoned, and then take care of it once you get it ready to go and just the way you like it, because it really is a one-time investment as long as it's properly taken care of, and it really is non-stick. So I had said that I was going to talk a little bit more about something, and I kind of did, but I really want to go back to the importance of taking survival preparedness seriously. I did the post, and I will put the link to the post on the video, but you may not think about this, but there are actually consequences if you don't prepare. Okay. You need to make a family plan, and you need to make sure everyone in the family understands what they're supposed to do if something happens. Because whether it's a natural disaster or a man-made catastrophe, it can really wreak havoc in your life, and it can really cause mass destruction. You know, whether it's an emotional, a mental, a physical, you know, you just don't really know until you've been through it. And if it's, say, a hurricane, you could come home and your house be completely gone. Or you could decide to stay in your home and maybe you make it, but somebody else doesn't. Or, you know, so many scenarios. So being prepared is so, so important. And you may be thinking, well, okay, if I prepare and I have to leave my home, then what? What happens to all this stuff that I have stocked up? Okay, that's why you have a bug out bag and you have things ready to go. For example, let's say you have a stockpile of food. Let's say you buy your food by the case, okay? I know some people do. I used to, when my children were babies, I would buy baby food by the case. So you have these boxes of food, or you can make your own boxes if you don't buy by the case. You know, just get some sturdy boxes and fill them up with the new food you buy. And so you have the chance to evacuate. And you can put those boxes in your vehicle and take them with you to wherever you're going to go. You know, no, that doesn't take the financial burden off of possibly having to pay for a hotel. But if you get the right hotel, you're going to have a kitchen inside of it and you're going to be able to cook. So by taking that food with you, if you can, you're going to not have to eat out in restaurants. You're not going to have to go and buy the food, you know, at a grocery store someplace and bring it back and cook it. If you're using freeze-dried food or MREs, those are even easier to pack because they're a lot more lightweight. So I do encourage you, you know, buy a couple buckets of MREs and keep those, you know, on hand, ready to go. If you're a picky eater like me, you might want to try an MRE. You know, we tried some biscuits and gravy a while back, which I thought sounded good. I did not like them. Jeff did not mind them. I've had the freeze-dried ice cream. It's really good. I was looking for some yesterday, and no place around here has it now, so I'm going to have to order some. But try the meals before you actually have to use them if you're going to go that way, because you might find it better to individually select meals and make your own bucket, your own kit. It's just using a 5-gallon bucket and a lid and putting in it what you and your family will eat. If you're lucky enough to have a freeze dryer, then you can make your own food yourself. If you have a dehydrator, you can dehydrate some foods and you can put them in there. You can, of course, make up your own meals and put things together. I would just encourage you to be really, really careful with meat. I would not encourage you to do any dairy. If you're going to have dairy, I would buy that already professionally made. And there are places you can buy big containers of it. So, I also encourage you at the very minimum to have 72 hours worth of food. At the very, very minimum. Because you don't want to be in a situation where you're trapped in your home and no one can get to you and you starve to death or end up really, really sick because you have nothing to eat. And with that said, don't just think about food. You need to think about water too. You know, keep some water on hand. Get yourself some kind of water purification filter, some kind of water purification tablets, whatever suits your needs, and keep those on hand. The other thing that I want to talk about that some people are really uncomfortable with, you do need to have some kind of weapon or some kind of self-defense plan. I encourage you to take professional training, and whichever way you go, and really learn how to get the most out of whatever your decision is, because if you're faced with an intruder situation and You could well be, especially if there's a riot or a natural disaster. You're trapped in your home. Most of the people are gone because the people that stayed behind and did not plan, they're going to be hungry. They're going to be looking for food and supplies, and they're going to be breaking into any home that is not well secured. So have a well thought out plan of action. Get your training. Make sure everything you do is legal. And know your laws. There's more on that over on the blog. And you also need to have a first aid kit. Now, I hadn't really thought about this until I wrote the article. But you need to have a first aid kit for adults and also a first aid kit for children. And the reason I say this is because if children have different needs, for one, they often take different types of medication and can't take an adult strength medication, especially if they're infants or under the age of 12. And you also might want to set aside very lightweight card games or other things, that coloring books and crayons, little things that the children can do, and make that part of their bug out bag. But keep it near that first aid kit, because even if you don't have children, you're likely to run into children in one of these situations. And children need something to do to occupy them. You probably don't want the handheld video games and things that are going to make noise and add to the stressfulness of the situation. So really think about, what can you get that's lightweight, that can be kept in a bug out bag or near a first aid kit, only for those emergency situations that children might like to do, and also consider the age of the children. Because, of course, a 1-year-old is not going to have the same interest as a 5-year-old. So anyway, that's it for me today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have questions or comments, leave them below. I hope you will subscribe. Thumbs up, thumbs down, comments below. Like I said, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll be back tomorrow with another daily vlog. Thanks for watching.